In this video, we're going to talk about how to map a cemetery. We will start by laying out a rectangle that marks the plots. Then talk about ways to enter all of the details about each plot. Lastly, we will talk about how to search the map and how to share this information with the public. If you don't already have a Diamond Maps account, you can create a 30-day free trial account at diamondmaps.com. And everything we're discussing here can be done in this free trial account. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to create a new map on my Diamond Maps account exclusively for this cemetery. Go to the account screen and click Add New Map. Then give it a name and click Create. By the way, you do have to have account manager permission to create this new map. There's my new map, so I click on it to open it. Alternately, we could have simply added this cemetery information to our existing map, but I think it's a good idea to have a separate map for each cemetery. My new map has an initial view of the entire city, so let's change that to open just on the cemetery. First, I zoom into my area of interest, then I click Menu, Map Properties, and Use Current View. From now on, the map will open to this view instead. Okay, next let's create a layer for our cemetery plots. To do this, I'm going to click the Layers button, then click Add. From the type of layer, I'm going to use the Cemetery Plots template. Then you can name your layer if you want to. Click Create, and there's my new layer. Now, before we start drawing things, let's form a plan. The Diamond Maps rectangle drawing tool lets us draw an array or block of uniformly sized rectangles. So we need to determine which sections of the cemetery can be drawn together as a block. I'm going to use the markup tool to make some temporary markings on the map, just to help me think this through. Okay, so it looks like this area is made of some uniformly spaced plots. So we can draw it all as a single grid. And then we could draw a second grid in this area, and maybe a third one here. Remember, these red lines are just temporary, and we're using them to plan what we are going to do. If you have a paper map showing this layout of these blocks and or the dimensions of the individual plots, that will be very helpful for this next step, but it's not required. Starting with this northern block, I count 17 full rows and one short row here. So let's call it 18 rows for now. And according to other documents, I know that there should be 16 plots per full row. With that information, I go to the Draw button and choose my Cemetery Plots layer. Then click on the Grid button. And here I'm going to enter 18 rows and 16 columns. If you know the height and width of each plot, enter it here. Or if you're like me and you're not quite sure, then enter an approximation. So I'm going to estimate that the row height, like head to foot, is 10 feet, and the width is 3 feet. Next, we need to rotate and position the grid as best as we can to line up with the headstones that we see on the map. To do this, I'm going to first click and drag the rotate icon to the approximate angle that I want. Then click and drag the entire grid to where you want it. This typically takes a lot of adjusting to get it right where you want. Okay, so now you can see my block is the incorrect size to match all the headstones, and that's just because we guessed at the plot sizes. To correct this, you can either change those dimensions in their respective boxes, or you can click and drag on the edge of the grid block to uniformly adjust the size of all the plots. Once you have it right where you want it, click Done. The result is 320 plots waiting for you to enter the individual details for each one. But first, we need to do some cleanup. Remember this partial row near the road? According to cemetery records, there are only 6 plots on this row. So let's just delete the rectangles that we don't need. To do this, I can click on an individual plot and then choose Delete feature. Or we can delete several at once using the Select and Modify tool. One important note here is that once a group or grid of rectangles is put on the map, you can no longer make adjustments to the group as a whole. So it is important that you get that initial placement rotated, sized, and positioned just how you want it. You can, however, use the Select and Modify tool to delete all the plots in a certain area so you can start over. So, to complete the step of drawing the plots for the entire cemetery, you will need to repeat these same steps to lay out each block. And keep in mind that if the overall block is not a perfect rectangle, you can always delete any plots around the perimeter like we did for those plots near the road. Next, let's talk about how to enter the information about each plot. The hard way, but sometimes the only way, is to click on each plot one at a time and type in whatever information you have about each plot, like this. Note that the color of each plot changes based on its occupancy status. It's important to know that you can customize this form to add more fields, remove fields, reorder fields, add pick lists, add checkboxes, and etc. For instructions on how to do that, go to help.diamondmaps.com and search for Add or Remove Fields. If you are fortunate to already have a database listing all of these people, then there is a much faster way to do this. You just have to be able to get all of the data into a simple CSV file. That file needs to look similar to something like this. Here are the important requirements about the CSV file. First, the first row are all of the titles for the columns. There is one row per plot. There must be a column called plot, matching the identifying field name in our map. And all of the records must have a plot number entered in order for them to be matched up to the correct plot on the map. The remainder of the columns can contain any information you want and you have about each plot. And lastly, if this is an Excel file or Google Sheet, be sure to save it as a CSV file. Okay, now back to the map. The last prerequisite, and definitely the most time-consuming one, is that you have to enter this plot number into each plot one at a time. But you know that's better than having to type in all of that information. So, we have all of our plots drawn on the map, we have typed in the plot number for each one, and we have a properly formatted CSV file with all of our data. Now let's merge the two together. In the map, click Menu, Import, and Merge Table. Select our CSV file, and enter the name of the key field, plot in this case. Then click Import. Once it says Done, reload the page. And if I click on one of the plots, I should see the data that came in from the CSV file. And if I lost you on any part of this merge process, just give us a call and we can walk you through it over the phone. Once you've completed the time-consuming part of mapping your cemetery, it's time to configure your map for use by the public. The first thing we want to do is make this map publicly accessible so that people can view it without having to log in. To do that, we go to Menu, Map Properties, and check this box here. Now I can copy this URL and post it on the city's website. The public will not be able to make changes to your map. Next, let's add a big search button to make it easy for people to search for a plot by name. To do that, let's go back to the Map Properties screen, click Customize, and then check the Cemetery Search Customization. Tell it the name of the layer, and indicate which fields should be searchable. Now the public will be able to see all of the information you have entered about each plot, but this checklist here just allows us to simplify the search process by helping them focus on the fields that are most commonly searched. Lastly, click Apply. That completes all of the setup, so now let's test it out. To see what the public sees, I need to first log out. And now because I'm logged out, I see a simpler menu, and if I click on a plot, it is no longer editable as it was before. The most common thing a visitor will want to do in your site is search for someone. To do this, I click Search, and then enter a name or partial name, and click Search. Here are the matches that it found, and I can click on any of the results to locate that plot on the map. I hope this video gives you the confidence to map your cemetery and share it with the public. And as always, be sure to give us a call if you have any questions.